In the heart of an elegant, bustling city stood the Grand Rosewood Hotel. Its name sparkled in gold against the towering skyline, known far and wide for its impeccable service, luxurious suites, and refined dining experience. Among its many treasures was the Ivy Room, a fine dining restaurant where the city's elite gathered for meals that were as much about status as they were about sustenance. Beneath the glittering chandeliers and polished silverware, however, existed a world of quiet labor, an intricate dance of chefs, servers, and cleaners, ensuring every detail was flawless. Among these unsung heroes was Marcus Bennett, a black man in his early 30s who had worked at Rosewood for nearly 5 years. With a ready smile and an unyielding dedication, Marcus was a favorite among regular guests. He knew their names, their preferences, and even small quirks, like how Mrs. Aldridge from Table 5 couldn't eat without arranging her cutlery symmetrically. But beneath Marcus's cheerful demeanor lay a quiet struggle. His job, while steady, came with its share of challenges. He often endured subtle biases, occasional microaggressions, and the unspoken rule that his role was to serve, not to shine. Yet Marcus carried himself with dignity, finding solace in his work ethic and the knowledge that his job helped support his younger sister's college education. It was an ordinary Thursday evening when Marcus's world changed forever. The Ivy Room was alive with chatter and the gentle clinking of glasses. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses leaned over candlelit tables, their conversations blending into a hymn of sophistication. At a corner table sat James and Clara Morgan, a well-off couple who had just flown in from New York for a weekend getaway. With them was their 2-year-old daughter, Lila, her curly blonde hair tied in 2 tiny pigtails. While James and Clara sipped wine and browsed the menu, Lila sat in her high chair, fiddling with a piece of bread. Her parents were engrossed in a discussion about work. James was a venture capitalist and Clara an architect, and neither noticed when the bread slipped from Lila's hands and into her mouth, a little too large for her tiny throat. Moments later, Marcus, who was refilling a nearby table's water glasses, noticed the toddler's red face and frantic motions. Lila was choking. Without hesitation, Marcus dropped the pitcher and sprinted to the table. "Excuse me," he said urgently, addressing the parents. "She's choking." James and Clara looked up, bewildered, as Marcus gently but firmly unstrapped Lila from her high chair. His hands moved with precision, turning her over and delivering a few back blows. When that didn't work, he performed the Heimlich maneuver, his heart pounding in his chest. It felt like an eternity, but finally the piece of bread dislodged, and Lila let out a loud, wailing cry. Relief washed over Marcus as he handed the toddler back to her parents. "She's okay now," he said, stepping back, his voice trembling with emotion. Clara clutched Lila to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved her life." James placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "We can't thank you enough. You're a hero." But not everyone in the Ivy Room shared the Morgans' gratitude. At the far end of the restaurant, Mr. Dawson, the manager, watched the scene with a frown. Dawson, a man in his 50s, with an unyielding obsession for order, valued decorum above all else. To him, Marcus's actions, though heroic, had disrupted the pristine atmosphere of the restaurant. An hour later, Marcus was called into Dawson's office. "Marcus," Dawson began, his tone cold and clipped, "I've received complaints about the commotion earlier. While I understand your intentions, this level of disruption is unacceptable." Marcus blinked, incredulous. Sir, I saved a child's life." "And I'm sure the parents are grateful," Dawson replied. "But this is a fine dining establishment. Our guests come here for a seamless experience, not chaos." "Chaos?" Marcus's voice rose despite himself. A little girl was choking. What was I supposed to do? Let her suffer? Dawson's expression hardened. I'm afraid this isn't up for debate. Consider this your last shift at Rosewood. You're dismissed. As Marcus packed his belongings in the staff locker room, a mix of anger and disbelief churned within him. He had done the right thing, hadn't he? How could saving a life lead to punishment? Word of Marcus's firing quickly reached the Morgans. Outraged, they demanded to speak with the hotel owner, Evelyn Hart. Evelyn, a poised woman in her late 40s, had inherited the Rosewood empire from her father. Known for her business acumen and fair judgment, she was not one to make hasty decisions. Clara wasted no time. Mrs. Hart, your manager just fired the man who saved our daughter's life. How is that acceptable? Evelyn frowned. Fired? For what reason? Apparently, saving a child disrupted service, James said bitterly. Do you know how absurd that sounds? This isn't just unfair, it feels like something deeper is at play here. Evelyn's sharp eyes narrowed. Deeper? James hesitated. Let's just say, if Marcus didn't look the way he does, I doubt this would have been the outcome. Evelyn's expression grew serious. I'll look into this immediately. Later that evening, Evelyn sat alone in her office, reviewing the security footage. She watched Marcus's quick actions, his calm under pressure, and the tearful gratitude of the Morgans. When the video ended, Evelyn leaned back in her chair, troubled. She summoned Dawson to her office. Wallace, was Marcus fired? She asked bluntly. Dawson's confidence wavered under her piercing gaze. He disrupted the restaurant, ma'am. It wasn't professional. Evelyn folded her arms. Disrupted? He saved a child, and yet your solution was to fire him? Do you realize how this looks? Dawson stammered, but Evelyn cut him off. We are a luxury hotel, yes, but we are also a business built on people. If we punish heroism, what message does that send? The next morning, Marcus was at home, contemplating his next steps, when a knock at the door startled him. Opening it, he found Evelyn standing there, accompanied by the Morgans. Marcus, Evelyn began, I owe you an apology. After reviewing what happened, it's clear an injustice was done. She handed him a formal letter. This is your reinstatement, along with a promotion to team supervisor. I also want to assure you that we're implementing new training to address the underlying biases that led to this situation. Marcus looked at the letter, then at Evelyn, his emotions a whirlwind. Thank you, he said finally, his voice steady. I just want to do my job and do it well. When Marcus returned to the Ivy Room, he was greeted with applause from his co-workers. News of his reinstatement had spread, and many were inspired by his resilience. From that day on, Marcus not only continued to serve guests with his trademark dedication, but also became a quiet force for change within the Rosewood Hotel. He mentored new staff, advocated for fairness, and worked closely with Evelyn to ensure the Ivy Room became a place where everyone, staff and guests alike, felt valued. And though the scars of his experience remained, Marcus knew one thing for certain. Doing the right thing was always worth it, no matter the cost. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said. Marcus's story reminds us that courage and integrity can light the way, even in the darkest of moments. Marcus's story shows us the power of standing up for what's right, no matter the consequences. What would you have done in his shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you were inspired by this story, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more heart-thought-changing and motivational stories like this. And don't forget to share this with someone who could use a little inspiration today.